Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast we connect entrepreneurs to professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hey guys, my name is Ashan Khan. I am one of the co-founders and the current owner of My Contents. We are a restoration company, but we do things a little bit differently. We're not like a general restoration company that comes in and does everything from start to finish. We have a niche within the industry. A good way to explaining it is if you take a house, flip it upside down and shake it. Everything that falls out is what we're responsible for. So we're responsible for your clothes, your TV, electronics, your appliances, everything you use to prepare food, your plates, your kitchenware, rugs, couches, all that stuff. So we don't actually touch the structure of the house. We let our partners take care of that. So we just focus in on that. So let's say you have a water loss, a fire loss. We go in, we assess every single item that's been affected to determine its salvageability. And what I mean by that is we go in and check to see, hey, can this be cleaned? Is this unaffected? Can it be restored? Or is it total loss? Meaning, either economically it doesn't make sense to restore it, or it's destroyed beyond repair. We make that determination. We have a 25,000 square foot facility here in Fort Worth, Texas, where we'll then inventory everything, bring it back to our facility, and that's where all the magic happens. We clean stuff. Once it's ready, we store it, and then as soon as the house gets rebuilt, put back to where it is, we take all the items and we bring them back into that space, and then take the house back to where it was before.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so I'm intrigued. I'm super intrigued right now. So restoration, I come from a very hands-on working family. I tinker with things myself, but don't as much now because I don't have a garage. But I've know a ton about restoration, but I've never heard somebody or been around people that do exactly what you guys do at My Contents. So what kind of drew you into that side of restoration as opposed to doing the mold or mediation side on somebody's drywall?
Well, depends how much time. How much time do we have, man?
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good. We got 35 minutes. Good for
Okay,
it.
so this is a true example of an American dream,
Yeah.
a side hustle that turned real. You know, uh, Let me give you a little bit more of my background.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
have a degree in finance, and I'm one of the unicorns that has a degree in risk management insurance. It's something that's not very common. It's becoming more popular,
Hmm.
but so I have a really good friend of mine. His name is Daniel Rodriguez. I met him a long time ago. We played flag football together. That's how we met. And he had worked for a lot of different moving companies. And I'd always talk to him about, hey man, whenever you're ready to make some money on your own and not someone else, let's start a moving company. And I had my wife teed up with this. And like the second Daniel calls, we're going to do it. Because I was working my corporate banking job and stuff, right? So it's not something I could dedicate my all my time to. So Daniel called in 2021, I believe, 2021, and that's how we started. In September 2021, we started as a moving company. That lasted about 2 months because we were working with a buddy of ours that was in the restoration business, and we started doing what's called packouts. So that's the process of going into a house, inventorying everything, and taking it out.
Hmm.
Whereas in a good moving day was $1,000 a day would be great. We
Right.
started doing these packouts, and we're making $3, 4, $5,000 a day, and we're like, what the heck, this is awesome. Um, but there's more to it because the people that were paying us didn't hesitate. It was
Right.
still a lot of money, and we were so happy, right? So uh, I put on my risk management hat, called my peers, called some of my mentors, and just got, you know, just dove right into it, trying to figure out what it was. And then come to find out, these companies are charging 15, 20, $30,000 for a pack out. We're getting paid that, three, four, $5,000. We're doing all the work, right? Uh, we didn't know, so we were happy until we figured it out. And then what we did was we, uh, the organization that certifies, in the restoration industry is called IICRC. So we went and we got, water certified, we got fire certified, we got, certified to do contents, and then shifted from being a restoration company, from being a moving company solely to doing contents.
Hmm.
And that transition took us a few months after we started. So we really didn't last as a moving company too long because then we found this niche. And, we don't per se need those certifications to do what we do. But
Right.
the purpose of that is to kind of remove ourselves and move us farther away from being, identified as a moving company. because there's more to it, right?
Right.
And so, furthermore, we partner with other restoration companies, we partner with adjusters, we partner with consultants, and that allow when we go up to a loss, it allows us to speak the same language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Albeit we're not doing the mitigation, we're not touching the structure, but when they're speaking about the type of loss, the class of loss, how the loss is, categorized and the scope, we know exactly what they're saying. So then it transforms into, our work. So it overlaps, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the purpose behind that. So then also the big thing is the differentiating factor of us and a moving.
Yeah, dude, that's sweet, man. That's awesome, especially to hop into a niche like that. So, tell me this: what is that? I guess is 90% of your guys' work now going in whenever it is that type of loss situation, or something catastrophic happened at somebody's house. Is that 90% of y'all's business now, or do y'all still do kind of moving contents for people around, or is it mostly just all?
It's all 100% insurance work.
Yeah.
And I think to go back to what I said earlier, we lasted as a moving company for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we switched it over to insurance and working with fire, water, and all that, we didn't go back to moving.
Okay.
Granted, we've helped some partners out. We had a restoration company owner that was moving houses, and he gives us good amount of work. So we send our guys to move them from one house to the other. Can we do that? Yeah, sure.
Right.
But we do it selectively to help our friends and family out.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we don't advertise ourselves as a moving company. We don't do any of that.
Okay.
But a proponent of the actual moving part, it's like a moving company, but on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Because unlike a moving company, you're packing stuff, into a box, and then you just deliver it and you're kind of done, right? Whereas in ours, we have to make sure we pack it and document it as such, because at the end of the day, we're the ones putting it back.
Mm-hmm.
If it's damaged, guess who's responsible? Not the carrier, not the adjuster. I am.
Right.
So we have to make sure we take proper care of it, all while we are making sure the contents that we're touching are not affected by the loss. Otherwise, you put the client in a bad spot. They didn't get
Absolutely.
paid for a replacement, or they didn't get paid for the contents to clean. So it's a very meticulous, detailed work.
Right, absolutely, and then yeah, you're dealing with insurance, which is you got to be detailed oriented. So I do a lot of BNI networking things like that, and one of my good buddies, owns a restoration company, and he always talks about being super well versed in insurance. How important that is that for you and your side as well?
So there is a line that you cannot cross as a contractor. Okay. We cannot present ourselves as adjusters. We never do. We can't talk policy. We can't talk coverage. There are a lot of contractors that make that mistake and kind of cross that line, which is completely unprofessional and inappropriate. Just as we don't, just as an adjuster who is reviewing the loss for the carrier can't dictate how we do our work because we're the experts.
Right.
We don't tell them how to do their work.
Right.
Okay. So what we do is when we go to a loss, oftentimes the scope is already determined, and scope is what determines like, okay, what's been affected, where the moisture mapping and what type of loss it is. So then it kind of tells us marching orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's different classes of loss as well.
Okay.
Just for example, we're gonna pretend that nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
So like a clean water break from a clean supply line is the category 1 loss. Okay, means it's clean water.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cleanest. Then you have pretty much category 2, which is like gray water, right? It's essentially let's say the pipe burst in a wall and it went through building material, like your drywall, and it got on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
When it travels through that, it's called category 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dirty, but not really, but it is, right?
Right.
And category 3 is essentially, black water, which is, sewer. That's kind of like, so a good example is like your toilet. If it comes from the tank, it's
Mm-hmm.
category 1 or 2. If it comes from the bowl, it's category 3, because you got, feces and urine and everything in there, right? If there's any type of blood, any type of, there's so many things that can turn it into a category 2. If there's mold, microbial growth, we're not supposed to say mold, it's microbial growth, is present, then that's a category 3 loss. All it does is changes how we treat it.
Right.
Furthermore, it changes how our guys have to be properly protected as well, to ensure that their health is good with proper PPE, respirators, full, hazmat essentially,
Mm-hmm.
on those laws. It can also be like asbestos exposure, fiberglass insulation exposure, lead, and it just keeps going on and on.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that's definitely could get tricky. That's what I hear. Most is that's what makes good restoration people is kind of being able to navigate all of that situation to where you can lead somebody to the right, make sure they're getting their, I guess, primary care taken care of in their homes and their, I guess, all of their belongings. But what would you say, being in the business since 2021, it seems like you guys have grown pretty quickly, and congratulations on it. What would you say has been some of the most difficult things for you guys? Obviously, because you started as a moving company, but now, being My Contents and being in the restoration world, what's been some of the things you guys struggle with?
you can ask any industry professional this, and they'll say this. The part of the loss that we handle is is the most detail oriented, it's the most meticulous, and a lot of insurance carriers and adjusters hate dealing with this process. Reason being is it's very time consuming, right? You pull up to a fire loss, right? Guy just, half of his house is burned down. There's smoke damage, water damage everywhere. We go in and we pick every single piece of their personal property. So as I'm talking, we're pulling their half burnt toothbrush out of the debris because we want to make sure that every dollar counts, right?
Right.
One of the biggest losses we did was about a 6,000 square foot house at over 6,000 items that were deemed unsalvageable.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking hundreds upon hundreds of hours of us inventorying, assessing, cleaning, creating a total loss inventory,
Mm-hmm.
all that. If we don't do that work, the homeowner sure as heck doesn't have time because they're not a restoration contractor or an adjuster, right?
Right.
They still have to move on with their life as well as dealing with a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes the burden falls on the homeowner with an Excel sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of people do not know how to use Excel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like they've gone through a trauma. You ask them to do something that they don't know how to do
right.
professionally.
Right.
And they're going to miss a lot of stuff. And
mm-hmm.
I believe, to some extent, that's the kind of part of the game that's being played because they're only going to remember some of the, important things,
Right.
They may come up with a couple, 200 or 300 items. Whereas we're going in finding 2, 3, 4, 5,000 items to help sure they're properly, indemnified.
Right.
Or being brought back to pre-loss, right? And so in that regard, we have created certain SOPs mm-hmm. and processes that we can go in there and do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It protects the homeowner. And, on the back end, it also protects the carrier because they're accurately paying out the claim.
Yeah.
I hate the word maximize. Okay. Let me just say that we do not maximize losses. We do not profit off the losses because that is illegal. What we do is we get in there and assess everything. And one of the examples I give is if there's a dining chair and 4 chairs, I can only charge for a dining table and 4 chairs. I can't make up 6 chairs or, So what we do is pretty black and white. Was it there? Yes. Is it affected? Yes or no? Right. What are we going to do with it? And go on to the next one. There's not much left for interpretation. But because of how detailed, how meticulous this work is, oftentimes it's overlooked or it's not given the attention that it needs.
Mm-hmm.
I just got back from the conference last week and, talking to a lot of claims executives and stuff. And they were talking about how, do you really like what you're doing? And, because our adjusters hate it. I'm like, look, yes, because this part of the restoration process is all we do. So our team is not fragmented,
right?
Doing 10 different things. We're specialists in this one area,
yeah.
And we just do it really well.
Absolutely, killing your niche.
Yep.
Absolutely, and that's awesome because what you guys do is very much needed, but definitely the back mind of somebody. But if they find somebody like you or have a restoration partner that comes in that can do it well like you, versus somebody that's just worrying about what's behind the wall, or what's going on underground over there under the house. Because
oftentimes it's like, hey, let me just take a bunch of the stuff and throw it in a box and then move it to a storage unit.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. One of the things that I like to do is, and I'm trying to work on this, and I've trademarked this. I'm in the process of trademarking this. I've already got social media lined up. I've got a website. Anytime I go to a conference, I get referenced as, hey, it's the contents guy. So be on the lookout, contents guy, videos.
I like that. I love that.
And it's simply, what it's going to be is, there's some really great folks within the industry. Kevin and Issaquoy, Barbara, they've been a staple in the restoration space for contents.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes what happens is there's a lot of technology that's coming out. There's different ways of doing stuff, different ways of approaching it, right? And so what I'm trying to do is not take away from anything that they've done, because
Right.
Kevin and Nissa have been godsend for us. They've been there while we were establishing our business. And they've been a staple. Look them up, Firehouse Education. They do a great job. But what I'm trying to do is educate the everyday restorer that may not be able to go get a consultant. It's
Right.
like maybe 30-second, 1 minute videos of how stuff that we're dealing with, how we're addressing it.
Mm-hmm.
People are nosy, giving facility tours of our facility, talking about our processes, because I have a lot of my competitors in the market that come into our facility,
Mm-hmm.
call me on a daily basis asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, they always follow up with, well, why are you helping me? I'm a competitor. I'm like, look, man, if this process and what we do is so negatively looked at or not handled correctly, if I can have another 20 companies in Dallas Fort Worth answer the questions the same way, create their invoices the same way, handle the loss the same way, then less carriers are going to question how we're doing it, because that's kind of a standard that's been set.
Absolutely.
So if all of us can do it the right way, then it just elevates the industry as a whole, as opposed to me gatekeeping what I've learned,
Right.
which I don't like doing, because how are we helping the industry get further, grow, get better,
Right.
if the guy that has kind of figured it out is hiding it from everyone?
Yeah. Imagine. Yeah. Because you don't have competitors, it's harder for you to grow. Because then it doesn't push you to go any harder. That too.
Yeah.
On that side, I mean, that's personal stuff. I don't know.
And dude, I tell my team too, man, like, what's written for us can't be taken by someone else. The food that's written for someone else, I can't take.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What I can do is just help people as much as I can to make it easier. The thing is, when it comes to restoration, if you look at it, outside looking in,
Yep.
for everything we do, we're borrowing from so many different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Restoration isn't like something that's kind of by itself. Like,
Yeah.
whenever we're rebuilding the house, right, we become builders, right,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, or a general contractor that brings in plumbers and drywall people, painters. So you're not really. And on the mitigation side, there's science behind drying.
Right.
And then for us in the middle, we're borrowing from that. We're borrowing from procedures from janitorial services. We're borrowing procedures from dry cleaning services. We're getting stuff from technology guys, electronics, appliances. So
Mm-hmm.
we're just kind of conduit which through the house gets restored, but we're borrowing from so many different industries.
Right.
And bringing it into what we do and how we restore the things or clean the things.
Right. No, absolutely. So. And Hassan, share back with this. I want to reach back a little bit. So when you guys were doing the moving and y'all were working, for these other contractors, and they're, kind of sending you guys out to go do this job, that job, how did that spark come to do contents exactly and do it for restoration? I'm very intrigued on this, because this is, I talk to business owners, and a ton of them every week and every day. And I do this as well. So I do this, 10 times a week, and then I do my regular job, and I've never heard what you do. And I've been out in the business world for 2 years now. So I've talked to thousands of people.
No, man. It was just someone presented us with an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you're new in business, you try not to say no too many times, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, yeah, we'll try it out. What do you need us to do? And it was pretty much at that point, because it was just part of the process, which is called pack out, which
Mm-hmm.
is inventorying and packing out.
Mm-hmm.
And we started doing it. All we had to do was, just kind of beef up our SOPs and processes that, hey, we have to pay attention, all that stuff, right? And, we just kind of, dove in and, just started learning. And then, that opportunity was great, because we were able to learn a lot of great things from that company.
Mm-hmm.
And, allowed us to, kind of step into the field. And then I think one of the biggest things from that point was the fact that my contacts and my educational background was in insurance, right? So it's like, let me see how I can figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did. Granted, maybe if it was someone else, maybe they wouldn't have, $3,000-$4,000 a day was still great.
Right.
Not complaining. But how can we go get that $20,000, $25,000, $30,000,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually get paid fully for the entire job?
Right.
And that's essentially what we did. We stayed on with that company as long as we could as a sub to learn everything,
Mm-hmm.
while we got our certifications, while we learned. And then we started marketing and putting ourselves out
I love it.
there. We quickly went from, 5,000 square foot warehouse to 7,500. Year later, we found ourselves in a sublease 15,000 square foot space. And as soon as that lease ended, now we're in 25,000 square feet, and we've been here for a year, and we're running out of space.
Right. That's awesome.
So
That
it's a
is,
good problem to have.
no, it's
You know,
absolutely it's an incredible problem to have, and that's quick growth for you guys too. So that means that's a testament to the work you guys do too. That means you hold by your word and you treat people the way you say you're going to, which is means a ton. And then I've never been to the Dallas Fort Worth area. I'll be over there in October for a conference, but I would assume that it's very similar to Atlanta. It's a lot of small towns that are very much so. You build your company off your word and your brand.
yep. I mean, my brand is the most important thing.
Hmm.
What we do, and it's just I keep it simple. We're gonna do what we say we're gonna do, and we're gonna kill it. Furthermore, what ends up happening with a lot of entrepreneurs is they see dollar signs like, oh my God, I can do this, I can do that. No, I don't want to do mitigation. I don't want to do rebuild. I want to focus on this because if I start doing that, now I'm competing with the people that are sending me work.
Right.
We have zero intentions of doing that.
Right.
The way we present it to them is like, look, we don't do what you do. You don't do what we do. So it allows us to partner together and then have peace of mind knowing that we're not going to go out there try to steal your work.
Right. And I'm
We have no
sure,
intention to.
and I'm sure y'all got a good relationship between that too.
Yeah, furthermore, because we are certified, what allows us to do is, let's say their tech missed something.
Hmm.
It's an opportunity for us to like, hey man, it's still wet back here. Send your tech out, have them take a look at it real quick.
Hmm.
So we've done a lot of that too to help our partners out just as much as they help us out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's been a great relationship. One of the things that we like doing is giving them a tour of our facility because we want them to see, hey, there's no drying equipment here, there's no reconstruction equipment here, so know that hey, we have no intention of doing what you guys are doing at all.
Right. I
You
love
know?
that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. You don't want to be holding a smoking gun ever.
Yep.
But no, dude, that is incredible. So I appreciate you sharing because what you guys do is super awesome. I can't wait to kind of dive more into the website too. Whenever I get to really look and kind of see more of y'all's guys' work. What would you say is your favorite part of your day to day? I mean, I know it's probably changed a little bit now, but what's your favorite part of your day to day inside of the My Contents restoration world?
I think the part that I enjoy the most is the strategy in how we're looking to grow our business.
Hmm.
Being able to, represent the company in a podcast or going out to a conference or going out to, even if it's like, an event that my guys set up, just going out there and just talking about our story,
Hmm.
telling folks about what we are, what we do. A lot of times what happens in our market is we're still fairly small,
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know we exist. So that's our effort in that, right? So we're trying to get out, educate, tell them, hey, this is the right way of doing it. This is not the right way of doing it, and then just kind of, that's what I enjoy. That's a part of the day where I'm out there talking. If you can't tell, I enjoy
Yeah.
that part.
Networker, big networker.
Like I'm a people person. I'm a big networker, sales guy. I've been a sales guy my entire life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I think that's my favorite part of my day to day.
Yeah.
I have a great team. And they do a good job holding the fort down when I'm out of the office, trying to help grow it. But we are actively looking to add people to our team
Hmm.
to help with that strategic growth, implementation, and whatnot.
For sure, man. That's incredible. I appreciate you sharing that as well. With that, what would you say, is some of the stronger things that you and probably your business partner have kind of been able to lean on? Lean on each other, lean on something, whether that be your sales skills, your personability, that's helped you grow this thing so fast.
Let me touch the point that you made. So
Yeah.
when we first started, it was myself and my business partner. My business partner actually exited Q3 of last year to
Congratulations.
pursue some of the other stuff. So that's been a transition for us, which
Mhm.
has been great. Um, what was your question?
You're good. So for you, what are some of the things that have helped you grow the business, not grow the business, but things that you've been able to lean on, since being there? Because obviously starting a business is not easy, no matter what you do. Nothing in life when you go off on your own or jump ship is really easy to do. You're swimming against the current. But what are some of the things you've been able to lean on? Like you shared with us some of the things that you didn't do so well at first, which it's almost obviously almost every business owner does those things in your realm or other realms. But what are some of the things you've done well that have helped y'all succeed besides the networking?
I think one of the things that I tell my guys is to do the right thing every single time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a human element into what we do, right? Are we going to make mistakes? Will stuff sometimes break or get damaged or whatnot? I think what differentiates us from our peers is uh, the ownership.
Yeah.
That's why documentation is very important for us because anytime we touch something, it's timestamped, right?
Right.
So, if we're moving a table back into a client's house after their house has been restored,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they approach us saying, "Hey, Hassan, there's a huge scratch on my table." Like, "Hey, let's look at the pictures that we took when we were taking it out of your house. If the scratch is there, hey, Miss Smith, the scratch was there when we touched it, before we touched it."
Right.
Or on the flip side, if it's not there, we're like, "Hey, how can we make it right?" I can send my guy over that can fully restore it for you, make it look brand new. Or if we can't get it right, then we'll buy you. I think the accountability
Mm-hmm.
and owning that process and the customer service is
Mm-hmm.
crucial in our growth because, you know, oftentimes we never want to get repeat customers, because
Right.
that would
Yeah.
say that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just,
Yes.
how many times do you hear a business owner say that, right? We don't want to get repeat customers, but what we're about getting is, let's say, we took care of somebody really well, and then they go into their neighborhood page when the loss happens, like, "Hey man, my contents kicked butt whenever we had a water loss, you know, call them to help take care of your
Mm-hmm.
home," So that I think, but it goes back to our team, us empowering our supervisors, our management team. Hey, do what's right,
Mm-hmm.
do what's right every single time, and it comes and it pays dividends 1,000 times over.
Absolutely.
That's something that we've stayed true to from day one.
Absolutely. And you kind of answered the question again with something else is you hired good help too. And what has been a good process for that? Because I hear that a ton. Is that something people struggle with? Is getting good help? Is how have you kind of found that process?
So most of the core employees that we have, whether it's in the office, in the field, have been with us for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Natural, turnovers there, attrition's there,
Right.
but nobody ever leaves because they don't like it
Mm-hmm.
or they're being overworked, they've not been treated well. We pay our guys much higher than the industry standard here in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially because we hold them to a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
We hold them accountable. We
Right.
give them the proper training, we give them the proper tools, and we tell them that, hey, look, you got to do the job the right way the first time because you're being paid to do such, right?
Absolutely.
Our industry, here it's like, anywhere from $13, $14 an hour starting. We start our guys at 19.
Mm-hmm.
We get some of the more tenured folks. Oftentimes, because what we do is very niche and not a lot of people have done it, we pull people from other industries and then train them in our process.
Mm-hmm.
What I think what's important to say is, you know, we have to make sure the person fits within the chemistry of the team
Right.
more than anything else. Because we have a good core team.
That
We
makes
don't want
sense
to
though.
bring anyone in here and kind of ruin it. I've worked at organizations where you have that one superstar guy that kills it in sales, but he's just a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to fire him because he does. So we try not to do that. We want to make sure that everyone gets along with everybody. It's a good working environment, and you want to come.
Absolutely.
You know,
No, that's super important. Very important. That is kind of how we operate
and
here.
one thing that I want to say that gets left and not said enough is I could not do this without the support of my wife. Right?
Absolutely.
We actually just celebrated our 14-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
We have three awesome kids.
That's awesome.
This year they'll be 11, 8, and 5.
That's awesome.
But with her being the CEO of our home, holding the fort down, while I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week trying to build a
Oh
business,
yeah.
like I owe her everything.
That's
She's the
incredible.
reason why I'm able to do what I can do.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Family's everything though, because if you ain't got that and something holding you here, how is this gonna do? How is this gonna grow if this isn't right? That's
100%. And ultimately, what are you doing it for? You're doing it for that.
yeah.
I got asked the other day
Yeah. What
from
is your what
somebody.
is your why? Yeah. What's your why?
Yeah, I got asked somebody from the other day. It's like, okay, what's your definition of success? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what's the goal? I'm like, man, or what's the goal with the company? I'm like, dude, obviously as a business owner, you want to grow, numbers go up, but it kind of gets to a point in in what you make, it's like, okay, well, how much more is enough? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like right now, you have the ability to be off whenever you want to,
Yep.
attend all the kids' events, doctor's appointments, go on vacation,
Mm-hmm.
be there if your family needs you. Isn't that the
Mm-hmm.
definition of like, I made it? You know?
It depends on what it is for you. It's everybody's
Yeah,
is different. Like
yeah.
mine. It would be I just want to be able to travel and support the family. That's it. And that's my. I'm gonna know I made it. Maybe, but I don't know until I'm there. You may have thought the same thing 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and then now.
I know it's like my wife grounds me often. She's like, you've already hit your goal that you set 5 years ago, and then now you're just like, okay, more, more,
Yeah,
more. And I'm like, I think over the last year I've kind of just came to that realization that, look, man, this is success. This
yeah,
is awesome.
absolutely. That's incredible. Maybe write down a 3 year more goal. Why not? Why not? Because before the first one hits high school, you got time to hit a 3 year another goal, and then you can hone it down a little bit.
Man, I'm not built like that. I don't. If I'm not working, I don't know what I would do. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Nah. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. We had a 3 day weekend this weekend. I was like, I don't really know. I was sitting at the lake hitting golf balls. I got tired of hitting golf balls. I was like, I'm bored.
Hey, if you are here in October, swing by. We got an empty field and we got a bunch of throwaway balls that we hit into the field. So come
Really?
on by.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But no, it kind of sways me into my last two questions for the podcast. I ask my every guest these same things. One is going to be, what do you want to do with your time? When you're done with this, now that you're kind of realizing that you're in a good place, what do you want to do with your time? Whether that's you and the wife hit the beach, go drive up and down the coast in California. What do you want to do? Go see the kids, whatever it is. Start a band. I've had somebody say they want to start a band not too long ago. But it's your time.
Spend more time within my faith and learning what I don't know
Okay.
and digging. It's like you got different layers of like prayers, right? You got the
Absolutely.
basic, prayer, then it goes deeper, deeper, deeper. That's something that I want to do.
I like that. I love that.
Sometimes day to day takes away from that. But my faith is something that I want to focus on.
Yeah.
And then, we've been blessed over the years to be able to travel. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving for Europe on Saturday for 3 weeks.
Hey man, I go to
So
Scottsdale in the morning. I'm going to play golf in the morning.
I love it. So we're gonna go to Portugal and Turkey. But we love traveling. We want to see, everything that God's put on earth for us to
Absolutely.
enjoy. We want to see all that. And we got a list of places we want to visit. Charity is another thing. We do a lot of it today
Good.
within our business.
It's awesome.
Continue doing that. That I think and just I think at the end of the day, just being there for my kids and helping support their growth, making sure that they turn out to be good human beings.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very important because that's
I told you more than one thing. Sorry.
that's your no, but that's your legacy though. At the end of the day, the business can be a legacy, but the kids are more than anything because they're going to hold your name for years after you're gone. And you got any boys?
Yeah, I got one.
Oh yeah,
Two
athlete,
girls and a boy.
a little athlete.
He loves soccer.
Yeah.
He loves soccer. I wrestled and I played football. I put that kid in wrestling, and he did not like it. I tried to push him for about 8 months. He was about to make that turn for the figuring it out,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Well, but I don't want to do this. Can I play soccer?" So then we're like, "Okay." This is a conversation my wife had with me before we had kids. She's like, "I know you love sports and this and that. What if your kids don't want to play sports?" And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
My only ask is the effort be there. Like if you're playing piano,
Absolutely.
like try to be the best pianist there is. Put in a lot of effort. That's always been my thing.
Yep.
My daughter plays basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Her team went undefeated this year
Yep.
in her league.
Awesome.
But the thing is, look, you guys are still building on your skills. You guys are still building on learning how to play.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing at this point I can gauge you on is your effort. If your effort's not there, I'm going to be upset.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss a layup or you miss a goal, we can attribute that to, hey, you need some more practice because
Right.
you need to have better contact or you need to dribble the ball better, right?
Oh yeah.
That's on me. I'll provide that for you.
Right.
But what
I can
you
fix that part out.
until you have it got down is effort.
Yeah.
So I had that conversation with my wife, and then I got onto my son one time, and my wife got mad at me. I'm like, look, I understand he doesn't know the game fully, but his effort wasn't there, and I was always hold him accountable for that.
Absolutely.
First. be the first to the ball, things like that.
That's awesome on you too. That is incredible on you because that's not how it goes nowadays. I still coach travel baseball, and it's not how that goes for kids nowadays. It's always my
My
fault.
son sometimes will stare at me because he'll mess something up. And I'm like, dude, I'm not your coach.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
talk after this.
I don't
Go pay
care. I don't
attention to
care
the
about
game.
that. You just run back to doing
So,
what you're doing. Because I am a
and he's a
former.
lefty. He's a lefty, so he plays left forward, and he's
Man,
made a few
we need to get
goals.
him on the baseball field too. What are we doing?
Oh man, he's got an arm. He's
So
got an
I
arm.
was a
We have a
left-handed
neighbor.
I was a left-handed pitcher at a small Division I school here in Georgia.
So he actually throws right-handed, but he plays soccer as a lefty.
Oh, dang it. Dang
Yes.
it.
So
Dang it. I was gonna say
yeah, no.
being a lefty is a cheat code in baseball. I didn't have to do much out of high school. All I had to do is I just had to show up and be breathing and be able to throw strikes, and I was good. I got a good
Nice.
scholarship for it.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see if you can throw left-handed.
Look, it's worth it, especially where you guys are at, because Perfect Game's about to move over there, not too long from now, in the next like 5 years. So you guys will be the hub for baseball, maybe, because it's in Atlanta right now, but they're trying to move it to Texas to be more centralized. But no, and then the very last thing I ask all my guests is, burn the ship. It's the name of our podcast, and you are one of the definitions of it. Like you said, you live in it's an American dream. What you guys did, and you burnt the ship and went all in on your business. Do you know where I got burn the ship from?
I did Google it. I don't remember.
It's modern Central American conquistador Hernan Cortez landed in modern day Mexico. Thought he would landed in America on Plymouth Rock, couple 100,000 miles away, not really, a couple 100 miles away, and he made all his men burn all their ships and disassemble them on the beaches and take all their supplies and tell everybody, hey, we're gonna make it here or die trying. And we use the same sense in business, and you did that same thing when you said kick the bucket on corporate, and you said I'm going all in. What was it like for you? Is the just the questions. What was your emotions whenever you burned the ship?
Man, so 2023, I pulled my wife aside in the summer of 2023. I'm like, hey, look, wife, there's a lot of, I was working full time in my corporate job, and I was working full time here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a conversation with my wife, like, hey, I think by the end of this year, December 2023, I need to know what our expenses are. I will put that aside, and I need 1 year, is what I told her. That's a conversation we had in summer, and she was extremely nervous, right?
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
good to know she's not insane.
but what ended up happening was in, I believe, August of 23, I got called into to meet with the CEO of the bank I was working with, and I was laid off. So that sped up my timeline. So what ended up happening was amazing. Literally, I got laid off Friday around maybe 10, 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I had, between then and Monday, we had like calls for 7, 8 new jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, everything happens for a reason. And then at that time, we got an opportunity to work on the biggest project that we've ever done. And looking back at it, like I couldn't never have done my full-time job and managed this project
mm-hmm.
at the same time. So I was going to have to leave. But God had a different plan.
He did.
He just forced the hand, and everything just fell into place, man. Everything just fell into place. It was very, I will tell you, it was very emotional for me. That was the first time in my 16-year banking career that I was ever let go of a job. I've never been fired in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laid off because they were closing in the morning. So I wasn't technically fired, I was laid off. And
it goes better with the plot. It goes better with the plot, though, if you say you got fired.
And I was emotionally torn, man. Like I knew what I was building with this business, but at the same time, like, damn, did I fail?
Right.
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 It took a toll on me, and then again, my wife being the backbone, kind of helped me through that, and it was pretty emotional. It was a rough time.
Absolutely.
Because it didn't happen on my timeline.
Right. It didn't happen when you wanted it to.
But dude, everything worked out. We ended up, that project started around September, October. A lot of hours went to the project before the project even started, and it was ended up being about a $1.8 million project that we completed.
That's awesome.
So everything happens for a reason. And that's, I was ready to burn the ship per se, but it was like someone lit it on fire before I even took the the
Absolutely.
full load off the
You weren't
boat.
even, you ain't even
So
walked off the plank yet.
yeah,
That,
so that's how it happened for me.
yeah, no,
And
that's
then
awesome.
to some extent, burned the ship again after my partner left,
Hmm.
right? So after he exited, but that's been it's gonna be almost a year here soon, and it's been good, man. I can't complain. I cannot complain. It's been good. Uh, you know, we're not 100% where we need to be, but we're slowly every day, you know, getting closer to that.
Hmm.
And the closer we get, the more further that milestone's going to keep going, right?
Absolutely.
Because
There's nothing wrong with that.
so,
That's
yeah, that
awesome.
was our burn the ship.
But no, that's awesome, Hassan. I appreciate you very much for sharing that because that is incredible. And look, sometimes God's plan is better than our plan, and then that's how we got to trust it. That's yes, that's awesome. But tell the people where to find you guys. We'll have everything linked down below, but tell them where to find you guys.
So you can see some of our great funny social media videos on our Instagram. It's mycontents.tx. Our website is www.mycontents.co, not com, and there's a story behind that. And then our phone number is 682-800-4010.
Perfect. And then we'll have everything linked down below. But you guys go check out Ahsan and my contents and what they do. Seem like great work. Haven't checked it out myself yet, but I can tell you from talking with Ahsan that I would definitely allow them to come in and check out any of my stuff that needs to be remediated. But I appreciate you very much. If you got the last word for the people.
No, man. For anyone that's looking to get into business and whatnot, the only advice I would give is sometimes you got to take baby steps until you prove concept and then go all in. It's really difficult to just quit cold turkey and start a new business. That's really hard for you emotionally and for your family. So, you know, I am a example of the American dream. You know, so if you this is the land of opportunity, so anyone can do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, guys, burn the ship.